Hello everyone and welcome to the Rebrandly Link Up, the series where we bring you actionable online marketing insights from the experts. This week we're going to be talking to Kevin Lee, the VP of Marketing at Buffer, and he's going to be telling us all about social media marketing and developing a strong social strategy. So let's jump into it. So, Kevin, thanks very much for joining us today. To start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Buffer, and what it is that you do?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm Kevin Lee. I'm the VP of Marketing at Buffer, and we are a social media management platform. So we have products that help you with planning and scheduling your content to social media, engaging and replying to your audience and customers, and then analytics, so figuring out what's working and how to do more of the stuff that's working.
So today we're focusing on social media. So let's start off with the basics. Kevin, just how important is social media in the business world these days? And should brands just be on every social platform possible?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think from our perspective, yes, you should be on as many social media platforms as possible as it makes sense to. There's this analogy that we like to use where social media is the modern day version of a phone book from back in the day. Like when someone wants to learn more about your company, they might have in the past gone into a phone book and looked up your number and found a way to reach out to you there. Now they're going online to whatever social platform that they are most comfortable with. If it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, YouTube, like all these different places. So it is the way that your customers are going to find you and find out what you're about. They're going to get a sense of your level of detail, your level of quality, your brand, your voice, your tone. All these things are going to come shining through on social media. So I think it's hugely important both for B2B companies and for B2C companies. And at the end of the day, your customer is going to be a person. And as we know, like so many people are on social media these days. So it really has become the default way for those consumers to find brands and connect with them.
So you've written about creating a social media marketing plan from scratch previously, and I think that's an incredibly useful piece of content to have, as many might not know where to start. So could you give us a brief outline of the steps involved?
Yeah, thanks. So step one is to choose what social networks that you'd want to be on. So I said a bit ago, like be everywhere, and I think that's good to a certain extent. Like you should reserve your handle on as many social networks as possible and kind of build out a generic profile there. But in terms of being active, like you'll want to choose the places that your audience is going to hang out the most. You want to choose the places that you yourself or your team can allocate your time and resources to. So it may end up being one or two channels. It may end up being 3 or 4 channels, whichever ones those are. It's okay to focus on just that small handful and then to leave the rest branded and on message and pointed to the other places. So choose the social networks. Next step is to fill out those profiles completely. So you're going to be looking at all the visual components, your cover photos, your profile pictures. You're going to be doing the text, so your descriptions, some initial posts just to kind of seed that account and maybe point people to other spots if you're not going to continue to use that account long term. Step 3, once you get the foundation laid, you're going to want to find your voice and tone. And this may just be an extension of your brand's voice and tone from any internal documents you have or email marketing, blogs. Like you probably may have already thought about this. So just bring it over to social also. If you haven't thought about it, now would be a great time to do so. Figure out what your voice and tone sound like on your social profiles and for your company as a whole. And then pick your posting strategies. So on the networks that you're going to be active on, what types of content are you going to be posting? Is it going to be video? Is it going to be carousels? Is it going to be photos, images, links, text, like all these different options depending on what network that you're a part of. Then the frequency, so how often are you going to be posting? And when should you be posting? So the timing of when you're going to put those posts live. And then step 5 is kind of the rinse and repeat method. So you're going to analyze everything that works and then keep doing the stuff that works, try out new things, see if it works. And it's kind of a repeatable loop. So you publish, you analyze, and then you post again based on the learnings that you have there. And hopefully, eventually you get better and better as time goes on and your social stuff takes off.
So when it comes to managing social accounts for a brand or a business, there can be a variety of tasks to juggle at the same time. What are some of the biggest do's and don'ts in your experience?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think the first thing I mentioned of just trying to be everywhere at all times, that can be a bit of a drain on resources. So I guess that would fall into the don't category. It's a very noble don't. So I understand the desire to do that, but it often does lead to less than ideal experiences overall on the networks that you want to be on. So that's one of the bigger don'ts. In terms of the do's, I think when it comes to the way you organize your team for social media, there's many different paths to choose from. I think we've observed at Buffer, there's lots of different approaches to this. You might have like a smaller business where you have one or two marketers and they wear lots of hats, like you're talking about, like juggling lots of tasks. So social media is one of those tasks in addition to 3 or 4 other things that you do. You may optimize the team to really focus on social media and you have one dedicated social media person to manage that. Then we've also seen folks that have 3 or 4 people working on social as a team. So it really depends on your business need there. I think it's important to recognize where does social media fit within the context of all the other channels that you have and within your larger marketing strategy and your company brand strategy. Social media can be a really, really important piece for brands. So I think a mistake that some folks make is if you really emphasize brands, then you need to emphasize social media. And I think the mistake would be to just kind of treat social media as any other channel that you have on marketing and not give it the full attention that it would deserve. So depending on your strategy, oftentimes maybe B2C cares a bit more about the brand and social side. B2B might be more comfortable juggling it with a variety of other channels. So really think strongly about like what is most important to your company. If it's social media, then invest the resources. And if it's a multi-channel approach, then it's okay to maybe juggle and wear multiple hats in that case.
So for ourselves here at Rebrandly, we believe that your brand should be at the center of everything that you do, which is why we empower people to put their brand name on every link that they share. How valuable do you think the use of branded links are for social posts across various platforms?
Yeah, I think we've done some tests with this too, and I think the biggest benefit is on that branding side. You kind of notice, when you're scrolling the feed and you see a custom branded short link like that catches your eye, like that's very noticeable, and I think it shows really well on the brand. That takes that extra step. It shows a level of quality, a level of polish, attention to detail that reflects really well on that brand. In terms of like click-throughs and things, we haven't dug into the data too much on whether it drives more clicks or fewer clicks, but I think the overall impression of just seeing that quality on a small detail like a branded short link it goes a really long ways. And so when you're thinking of this brand presence and social media presence as a whole, it does come down to the details there. And I think the branded short links is absolutely one of those things that is worth considering. You can stick it in the Instagram link in bio and it's very, very visible. You can do it in Twitter and you see it in every tweet as you scroll through, and it's just it creates a really consistent experience. And without that, it can look a bit off in some ways.
As you can imagine, social media is as we know, it's broad enough that it can lead to dealing with various different departments in a company. So what advice do you have for sharing access to social accounts between teams and how best to manage it?
Yeah, there's a few different strategies for that. So a couple places where we see it happen quite often is with social media engagement. So we'll have people reaching out to us, customers reaching out to us with support questions. How does our product work? This thing, I need help figuring this thing out. And so we have our customer support team that needs to hop into those conversations. We also have audience and customers reaching out just saying, thank you for this piece of content, or I have a question on this aspect of social media. And so oftentimes our marketing and community folks will be the best people to answer those questions. So we end up, having multiple teams there. What's really helpful for us is having a tool that we can use together as one big team, like one unified inbox. So we use a Buffer tool for that. It's called Reply. So both of our teams are in there from support and from marketing, and we are able to share that inbox experience. So that's been really helpful. Another place that we see a need for it is when it comes to content creation, and that can be a couple different ways. It could be the marketing team all contributing content to social media. So you might have a social media manager who oversees strategy and making sure that content is going out, but you might also have maybe a content manager who's writing content for the blog and also wants to promote that content. So what we've ended up doing is having a neat little collaboration system, and we use Buffer for this too. There's the team collaboration tools in there where many different people from any area of the company can submit content into our stream, and then our social media manager can approve that content, edit the content as needed so it's on brand and the voice and tone is great. And that really helps. It gets voices from within marketing from content, but also gets voices from maybe our people team who wants to promote hiring, or our engineering or support teams who want to get out the word about this or that or the other thing. So it's become a really cool system. So a lot of it comes down to the tools for us. We use the social media management tools at Buffer to accomplish a lot of that. As needed, we'll do shared logins through Okta or 1Password just to make sure the right people have access to the right things, especially when it comes to moments where you might need to pause your posts that are going out or put a message up, if something has happened in the world or if maybe there's an emergency with the product or the company. So those tools pretty much cover us when it comes to working cross-functionally, having a good management tool and then a good account sharing tool as well. It helps to be prepared. And then we have a worldwide team too. We're a fully remote company, so we have someone awake at all hours. The sun never sets on Buffer, so we're always covered that way too.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Kevin. So just before we finish up, if you could give viewers 3 actionable pieces of advice for building a strong social media strategy for their brand, what would they be?
Yeah, I think I might pull from some things that we've been talking about internally at Buffer for our own social media strategy. We've noticed social media shifting from this megaphone approach where you blast a message out to everyone to more of a conversational approach to social media where you see things like stories and these one-to-one conversations or one-to-few conversations, a bit more targeted and segmented in that respect. So we've ended up focusing on 3 things. The first is to be consistent. And so that means consistency with your voice and tone, but also consistency with the rate at which you share. So, don't post 1 week and then wait 3 weeks to post again, but post on a regular cadence and post with a regular voice and tone. The second one is to be on brand. And this relates to the first thing we talked about where, people are coming to social media to find you and kind of discover what your brand is all about. So everything that you put on social media should be on brand. And that goes back to visuals. It goes back to voice and tone a bit. So those two kind of overlap in a sense. And then the third one is to be engaged and to be responsive. So when someone reaches out to you, make sure you respond to them. There's been some statistics that, as few as 10% of companies and brands respond to everyone on social media. And so that responsiveness has become somewhat of a differentiator for companies nowadays. So that's something important to us and I think would be a great for others to adopt to, respond to everyone and respond in the way that your brand would respond. So ideally, positive and helpful and encouraging, whatever your voice and tone is too. That makes it for a really positive brand experience.
Well, thanks a million, Kevin. Again, any closing thoughts for our audience? And if they want to discuss any of this further, where could they find you online?
Yeah, that's great. It's fun to talk about social media. I feel like it changes really fast. So anything I said today might be different whenever someone's listening to this. So if you want to catch the latest, you can head to the Buffer blog. It's at buffer.com/resources.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thanks again, Kevin.
Awesome. Thank you all.
And there we go. So thanks very much again to Kevin Lee of Buffer for joining us today. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to share, like and subscribe. You can comment below as well or follow the branded link on screen for more. And until next time, take care.